All right, let's further this discussion by welcoming Dr. Fikile Vilakazi, who's a political analyst, to weigh in on the government of national unity as a way forward for South Africa. Doctor, always a great pleasure having you with us. Firstly, your reaction to the ANC's plan to form a government of national unity, and what are some of the rules of forming one, since we don't necessarily have a blueprint as a country?
Good afternoon, Alicia, and to viewers at home. My reaction to the proposal of a government of national unity is that we have been here before. Alicia, this is not new. South Africans would remember that in 1994, when we transitioned as a country from apartheid, we had a government of national unity between the African National Congress, Inkatha Freedom Party, and the National Party at that time, which was the party that was emerging from an apartheid architecture. Mm-hmm. So there was that arrangement that happened, and I think a whole range of things took place at that time. For those who probably are not familiar, what actually happened in that arrangement is that certain things did not work. You know, for instance, we were just fairly new from the politics of difference, particularly on the grounds of race, and certain deliverables also were not so clear, particularly from the National Party, which as the government of national unity was emerging in 1994, 1995, they started to see that at a policy level, they are likely not necessarily agreeing with the liberation fighters who were emerging, you know, towards a possibility of a free South Africa, mm-hmm. Particularly on the grounds of race. So to put and then fast forward to come here. The question is, have we learned from that government of national unity? And I think very little has been done to actually learn from that. I think the glitches that we experienced in the last 30 years are showing us that we did not necessarily then take time to say, if the National Party was not able to work with IFP and ANC in 1994, will the DA be able to do that in 2024? And why I'm saying that is because South Africans, you will remember that what we now know as the DA also was some kind of a coalition between the National Party, which was the apartheid-led political party at that time, and mm-hmm. and the Democrats. And of course, it wiped up the National Party over time, and it has become now what we know as the DA. So in a way, we then continue to see the traits of what we used to know as a national party, particularly in terms of policies around, questions of race, mm-hmm. policies around questions of inclusion for the black majority in the economy. And you see it in the way that the DA, for instance, has taken positionalities around the question of black economic empowerment, issues around the minimum wage and so on. Those policies continue to be aligned with what we have tasted mm-hmm. During the apartheid government. And I think those are some of the things that are likely to then require decisive, honest attention in this arrangement of what President Cyril Ramaphosa is calling a government of national unity. But a lot has changed, right? As much as South Africans are saying that 2024 is our 1994, I think we have something more now, in that in 1994, we did not have a constitution that we now have, right? The country was still negotiating a constitution mm-hmm. That guarantees frames of negotiation, frames of human rights for everybody, including people of all races in the country. And I think in the last 30 years, the government of the African National Congress has worked very hard to put policies in place, Alicia, mm-hmm. That guarantee an environment of negotiation on the grounds of rights for everybody. Mm. And I think that is what this 2024 arrangement has at its disposal, which is likely to probably guide the negotiation process differently from what we had in CODESA, for instance, what we had in that government of national unity. So mm-hmm. I just wanted to point that out. And I think perhaps then this arrangement is even worse because we have the different fragmentations of what we used to know as the African National Congress, which have become smaller political parties like the EFF, the UDM, even the IFP, by the way, emerges from the ANC, for people who did not know, and many others like COPE and so on. So the ANC was a political home for the black majority during the liberation struggle. Now, there are a lot of politically homeless people in South Africa as we speak.
Yes, Doctor.
Mainly because what people used to know.
Yes, I wanted to know, Doctor, because, I mean, with this government of national unity, right, one would ask, is there a difference between a coalition government and this government of national unity? And then also, where does the voter, then their interests lie in terms of which political home they need to identify with going forward with this national government or the government of national unity?
And that's the critical question that is facing all of us now, Alicia, because, like I said, I think we first need to understand that a lot of South African voters that have voted now in 2024 have become politically homeless, mainly because of the fragmentations that have happened during the African National Congress, which is the strata that we have been calling disillusioned. However, some of them have found political homes in the fragmented cells of the ANC, like the EFF, UTM, and so on, and now the MK. So what that means is that we then need to go back to a conversation with the voter, because the voter has got to also understand what we mean by unity in a system where you are voting for a particular political party with a particular political agenda and a manifesto, who may then have to enter into an arrangement of unity for the interest of service delivery. And I think those are differences. And it may be that the political parties that are forming government of national unity need to then have a conversation with the voter to say, we are not going to necessarily compromise our policies and our ideologies, but what we are going to center in this unity arrangement is service delivery. So simple things like, if we have to agree with the top 6 political parties at the National Assembly in terms of how we are giving houses to the people, how we are making sure that people have got access to land, sorting electricity issues, access to Wi-Fi, and cleaning up our rivers and oceans and dams. You know, those are practical issues that could center in the agreement for national unity. And it does not necessarily affect policy positionalities, right? And I think for me, that is where this government needs to be different from what we saw in 1994. And again, it's compromise, Alicia. So, for instance, political parties like the DA, there are major concerns to say political parties who don't want this national unity are saying, why do you want to have to work with the DA? Because it doesn't seem like it has done a lot of emotional, psychological, and political work in understanding the non-racial arrangements of South Africa. You know, it seems that they are saying it in paper, but in their psyche, as a political party, they may not necessarily have shifted with the 30 years of a non-racial society. And I think that's the work, that's the emotional work and psychological work that each political party has got to do. Similarly with the EFF, similarly with the UTM, for instance, political parties that continue to drag South Africa into a place that says it's an only black society, because we are not that. Right? We are a society of different races. We've got white people, we've got Indians, we've got colored people, we've got Khoi and San people, and so on. So political parties, in terms of how they interpret non-racialism, because I think that is the bone of contention in this national unit, have got to arrive at a place that says whatever government of national unity that we formalize at National Assembly, it must service the constituency and the demographics of South Africa. And that is where we are saying we have to center the agenda of healing, right? We have to center the agenda of honesty, which is why the national dialogue become imperative, Alicia, because it then requires us to have something that I always call CODESA 2 in some form. It's fairly different from what we had in 1994 to then arrange those things, because we don't have a framework.
All right, Doctor, we're going to leave it there. Unfortunately, we're out of time. You know, I wanted to go on and just get, you know, your level of thinking around why some of the parties that are actually part of the multi-charter pact, I mean, if it wasn't dangerous for them to actually announce prior the elections that they were going into a coalition with certain parties. But we're going to leave it there, Doctor. A conversation still open, I suppose, for another day. That is Dr. Fikile Vilakazi, the political analyst, just giving us an overview of what and how the proposed government of national unity will actually fare out.